Hey everyone. We're just going to give a few seconds here for Leo to join, and also we'll just give a few minutes for other people to join the session before we get into the content and the agenda. I have a bit of housekeeping as well to run through before we get into it. But our speaker today is Fiona Bradley, founder of FB Comms. How are things with you, Fiona?
Grand. All my ads are checked for the day. We can relax. We can have a good webinar.
Grand, that was a very Irish response. I was meaning to ask you, like, do you have Irish family? Because the name Bradley is like, there's a lot of people called Bradley where I'm from in Derry.
Scottish.
Scottish, right. Well, there you go. You've been doing like traveling and speaking at different events as well recently. Have you got any other events coming up that you're going to need to travel for in the coming weeks?
Yeah, there's the AdWorld experience in October in Bologna in Italy, which is heavy paid ads sessions. So if anyone wants to really get into the advanced sessions, there's a load there. And there's the SMXL Milan in November. If anyone wants to check that out.
Non-stop. Yeah. We've also got Leo Pizarro, head of demand gen at Lunio. How are you today, Leo?
Hello. Pretty good, thanks. Excited for today's session.
I know you had a big Eurovision party over the weekend, Leo, and you were upset with the result.
Oh yes, I mean, yeah, they've definitely robbed Finland from an original tune.
Yeah.
But yeah, kudos to Sweden anyways. It was a catchy song, and to be honest, looking forward to that being hosted on ABBA's 50th anniversary.
Yeah. You were mentioning something about a grand conspiracy to make sure that Sweden won it so that it would be hosted on ABBA's 50th anniversary, which, I can see the logic for.
Honestly,
we're not going to get into
there
the
are some
conspiracy
speculations.
Today. Yeah, it was interesting when you raised the point to me. I was like, oh, you know what? I can see the logic behind it, but yeah, who knows? I guess we won't get to the bottom of that today. But I think we have had a few more people join on now, so I'll just kind of get into some of the housekeeping and run through the agenda. So again, welcome everyone. For those that don't know, I'm James, the content manager at Lunio, and I'll be hosting the webinar today, asking the questions. So we'll be aiming to get through the main points in the agenda that we've got in about 45 minutes. And then we're going to have a 10-minute session at the end for a Q&A with Fiona. So if you do want to ask something, on the right-hand side here, beside the polls and docs tabs, you can see a Q&A tab. And if you just put your question in there, it just makes sure that it doesn't get buried or lost in the chat later on. And also then people will be able to upvote your question if they like it and they'd like Fiona to answer the same one. As I said, at the end, we'll just go through that tab and we'll get through as many of those questions as we can. The title of today's webinar is Mastering Paid Social, Unlock the Power of Targeted Ads. And this is the final webinar in our 4-part series. The previous 3 sessions are all available to watch back on demand on the Lunio blog, complete with timestamps and a TLDR section for each one if you're short on time. So be sure to head to the Lunio blog and check those out if you missed them. But for today, we're going to be diving deeper into some of the paid social strategies Fiona outlined in her chapter of the Performance Marketing Efficiency Playbook, which is available to download free and ungated. You can find it here in the Docs tab in Goldcast. Anyway, I'm really glad to be speaking with Fiona again today. It was great working with you, Fiona, on the playbook. I think you kind of instantly grasped what we were trying to achieve and do with that playbook, and the tips and advice you gave were kind of exactly what we were looking for. And it's great to see how things have grown for you at FB Comms over the past year, both in terms of business growth, and I know you've been expanding your team as well. So thanks again for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the agenda, a few other minor points. We are recording this session today, and it will be available to watch back on demand as well. We'll also be creating a webinar write-up blog for this session and posting it on the Lunio blog along with the others. As I said, questions for Fiona, just leave them in the Q&A tab. Those questions that we don't manage to answer at the end, we will get an answer for you and forward it on to you afterwards. We'll also be running a few audience polls during the session, the first of which I will open now. So this is not strictly a performance marketing related question, but because it's been in the news, I thought it would be interesting to see what people's take are to this question. So is TikTok a national security threat? Some people say yes, some people say no. Fiona, what's your kind of response to that?
Not at the minute. There's nothing that you're sharing on TikTok or doing that's not already on Facebook. If you've been updating your profile since you were 15, or your Google searches, and if you're using Google Photos, there's a lot more stuff that you're putting out online already.
For sure. It seems like the answers that we've got here seem to be in agreement with that. But Leo, anything you'd say about TikTok security?
Yeah, I think likewise, this is a classic example of the US being afraid of China housing too much data. And it's only recently that we're seeing this shift in terms of a little bit more power over the data compared to the Western world. Other than that, I wouldn't call it a security threat. If anything, the existing social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, excluding Twitter now that it's under Elon Musk, but mainly Facebook, they're more of a security threat if you take into consideration the manipulation when it comes to politics and other aspects as well.
Yeah, there was obviously the Cambridge Analytica story, which came out after Brexit and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's not isolated to TikTok. But anyway, that point aside, I'm just going to bring up quickly our agenda slide here, just to briefly run over the points that we'll be covering today. So first, we're going to be talking about why investment in paid social is growing and why it makes sense to invest in paid social. Next, we'll talk about best practices for advertising on TikTok. Then we'll cover the challenges with automated paid social campaigns. After that, we'll discuss how to reliably track paid social performance and why it's important to have a good benchmark for your conversions. Then best practices for A/B testing, before closing with a discussion on 2023 paid social trends that you can tap into as a marketer. So with that, let's get into the questions for today. So as I said, Fiona, investment in paid social is growing. So from your perspective at FB Comms, what's driving this growth and why should brands consider increasing their investment in this area?
Because it works. If you're doing it right, we're seeing huge returns across some of the channels, and organic's a much slower burn, and so many platforms are so full of content now. If you want to get in front of the right person with the right message at the right time, then paid is the way to do that, and to get someone's attention, I suppose, much easier than spending 6 months building up all your organic content. It's the quicker and easier way, and you can get direct measurements, whereas organic, you can get a feel, or someone might see your post for a bit and then go through the website, whereas with paid you can track exactly which creative or which copy drove the sale.
Yeah, that's interesting. So before we get into like the specifics of different channels and stuff, you touched on organic there, and one of the things that you raised in the playbook was, even if you are investing a lot in paid, that you can't completely neglect your organic. And it would be good if you could just kind of outline what role your organic social strategy plays within your paid strategy.
You should definitely still be doing organic alongside paid. If someone clicks through your ad and you've got a barren Instagram page, it just looks a bit suspect anyway, and you want to be able to nurture the audience that you're growing there. And a bit like Google gives your website a quality score in terms of the content on there, how many people are interacting with it, people bouncing off it, things like that. Facebook gives your page or Meta TikTok, YouTube, whatever, a bit of a quality score. So if you're running ads off a page with 5 followers and only one of them is actually engaging with the content, then your content's not deemed by the platform as relevant. So you're going to end up paying more for your ads compared to a page that's got a really engaged following on there already. It's a great way to test your creatives out as well on organic. They should be working in sync as well. So the organic team, the paid team need to be working alongside with the same tone and the same creative.
Yeah, that's a great point about, you can use organic as a method to see what resonates. And then when you've kind of hit on something that clearly strikes the right chord on organic, you know that, this might be worth pursuing this messaging further and putting some budget behind it on paid. Yeah. So on some of the specifics then, obviously with search, businesses are a bit more limited. Obviously it's dominated by Google. Bing ads are kind of, some brands are choosing to invest a bit more now, but with social, there's so many different options and platforms available to businesses out there. How can they make the right decision about where to put their investment and where to double down?
Look at where your traffic and your conversions are coming from already using something like Hotjar or Google Analytics, or look at your competitors and where their traffic are coming from. Use something like SimilarWeb or SEMrush. So we had a client and we ran their competitors through SimilarWeb and found loads of their traffic was coming from Reddit. So we start running Reddit ads to people that were asking really specific questions on specific boards, and they did really well. So there might be something in there that you've not considered previously. But I mean, use your common sense, follow the user journey. Like a dentist is not going to get loads of customers from TikTok if they go viral. They're going to get their customers by people searching on Google and looking on maps and who's the closest to them and is the website easy to use. If not, they'll bounce and do something else. So use your common sense at what people are using platforms for. I spent hours on TikTok and then doing shoot dances and everything. But then when I reinvested that time into my LinkedIn, I just saw so many more leads coming in, opportunities, things like that. So while I still keep my TikTok alive, just to test content on formats, you want to try, you can try a few, but then, be sensible about it, switch it off if it's not working, redivest your budget. So we've got one client with like 6 channels on paid live at the minute, but they've all got completely different budgets because we're using them for different things, like TikTok to drive traffic, and then we're picking them back up with Meta and Google retargeting, things like that. So they don't all have to be for the same goal as well.
So in that specific example you gave where they're running 6 different channels, is it the budget is quite heavily invested in one particular channel and it's a smaller bit of budget strung out across the remainder?
Yeah, precisely. Most of the budget is going on Meta at the minute because that's where we're getting the most return and where we've got the most data to be able to retarget people really accurately. So that does really well. But then things like Pinterest, people use as ideation rather than actual shopping. So we've got maybe a 2 ROAS on there, which is okay. And then we can pick them back up on remarketing on Google.
So it's kind of like finding those 1 or 2 channels that perform really well for you, doubling down on those and kind of being a bit more conservative with the other channels and experimenting to see what works there.
Exactly. But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. It was maybe 3 weeks ago now, and Facebook spent everyone's budgets in like the first 2 hours of a Sunday morning. So if you were on a lifetime budget, you were screwed. So you don't ever want to. We were okay. We switched Facebook off for that day for all our clients and redivested the budget into the other platforms until they sorted it out. So you don't want to completely go all in on one channel. You still want to keep the others alive.
Did I presume there was a lot of complaints? Did Facebook issue any refunds or anything when that happened? Or
I ain't seen a refund yet, but there's been talk about it, but no official response on what's going to happen with that yet. We were all right because it was just on a daily budget, so we're like, well, fine, that's one day.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of frustrated people out there. I guess we'll just wait and see what happens with that. Before we move on to the next point about TikTok, because we're going to talk about TikTok in a bit more depth. I was just wondering if you could kind of quickly give me your take on a few of the less commonly used social platforms, or certainly mentioned less often. And if you could just kind of sum up your take on it and when it might be a good idea to experiment with that particular platform. So first, one of the kind of, it is a major social platform, but it doesn't get talked about all that much, at least in my circles. It would be Snapchat. So what's your take on Snapchat?
It is good if you want to reach a younger audience, and it feels more personable with them receiving kind of one-to-one content, because that's what the platform is. You send a Snapchat to just your friends, or you share the story, just your contacts and things like that. So if you're a creator, the creator program on there is super lucrative compared to like TikTok pays peanuts, and Snapchat can be really great. So if you're a brand on and you want to start looking at Snapchat, start with creators who've already built that engaged following, people that want to see what they're up to all the time, and it just feels a bit more authentic as a channel. But they've only maybe in the last year actually got some decent metrics on their ads. So you want to be using the Snapchat, I think it's MMM partner program, to be able to track your own returns. There is a lower click-through on ads, maybe less than half the click-through rate than on TikTok, because you've got your explore page that's updated so frequently every single time someone goes on it, that you really need something that stands out. It's not going to take up kind of the whole screen on that version of the ad.
That's interesting. And one of the other platforms, which I had never really thought about at all, to be honest, for advertising, but you mentioned when we talked about when we interviewed you for the playbook, was Quora, and some of the opportunities that they have for interest in placements. So what's your take on Quora?
I think it's really underutilized, because you can get your software or product or whatever specifically under or around the question that someone's asking for the solution for. But I also like to use it mostly for research. I like seeing what questions people are actually asking, and then creating content and ads that answer those questions.
Yeah, it's I think as well they have some option where you can have your ads delivered in the newsletter as well. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. You can get a really decent click through off those compared to if it was just like on the side of the feed or something like that. But we don't tend to use Quora that much for paid, just for research. Reddit and Quora are my go-to. What actual questions do people have when they're anonymous and unfiltered?
Yeah, that makes sense. One that a lot of my friends are using and that I see mentioned a lot is BeReal. Do businesses need to be on there at all?
I don't need to be on there. The whole point of BeReal was that it was a consumer-facing platform, and BeReal, if you don't have it, every 24 hours you get a notification. You've got 2 minutes to take a photo. It takes one front and back. I think businesses should probably be more careful about it, because I've got some friends that, will take a picture and they've got like a client document open or something like that. So obviously I'm zooming in, seeing what the presentation's about. So I think businesses should probably have a bit of a clause about using BeReal in the office. But then Pretty Little Thing does BeReal really well. So if they've got new product launches, there must be like 20 people with the login, because you could get it at 10 p.m. at night or something. There's no guarantee that it's going to be there between 9 to 5, and they don't have a paid ads option. They don't have business accounts on there. So if you're in e-commerce and it's something really big and you've already got a loyal fan base and you want to give them the extra sneak peeks and they feel like they're a bit part of your club kind of thing because they get the extra content, then go for it. But if you're in services, it's probably not worth the bang for your buck.
That makes sense. And the last one, a social platform I hadn't heard of until we spoke about last week, I felt quite out of the loop, is Lemonade. So could you just sum up for people what Lemonade is and why they might want to consider it?
It's apparently the fastest growing social media app at the minute. It's relatively new, so it is quite slow. It maybe took me 20 minutes to upload something this morning, but it is super user friendly. So you can upload your pictures, your videos. It's a bit like TikTok in that you open it on your For You page, you pick your interests, and it serves you up the relevant content from people that you're not following. And you can stick your pictures on there and get loads of text and fonts and make a carousel on there over the top of your imagery. And they're really, really transparent about how to use it, how the hashtags work. It is new, so there are less people on there, and they are paying creators quite a bit to, I suppose, get the content on there. You can link it to your TikTok, but there isn't a paid option on there at the minute. I reckon that will come when the user base is there.
Yeah, so it's something just to be aware of and keep an eye on, I guess, over the coming months. But with that, we'll just move on to the next topic, specifically about TikTok. So as we've kind of already mentioned, very much trending at the moment. A lot of brands considering whether they need to be on there or if they're already on TikTok, how they can be using it to its full potential. So on a top level, Fiona, what do brands need to understand about advertising on TikTok?
Make it authentic. It wants to look like someone's just quickly created it. The best way to use TikTok is the same way that you use Instagram stories, rather than spending hours curating. Instagram's more aesthetic and you can have those more produced videos and the sound overlays and things. TikTok just works better if you've got someone, showing you how they use something, how they do something. So it works best for it works well for services if you're constantly providing value through there. When I was offering my services on TikTok, the only other people following me and looking for my tips were other people that provide the same thing. But as far as e-commerce, low value products work really, really well. TikTok Shop's amazing. We've seen really high returns on some things that people can, kids' toys, people can click right through, or jewelry under £100. But then when we've been advertising real luxury products, we use TikTok in a different way, rather than expecting people to drop 10 grand on something, 4 grand, whatever, on TikTok. We use it as a traffic and user content generated platform, and then retarget them on other platforms. So you want it to look authentic. So there's loads of creators on there. You can use TikTok Creator Center. I find a lot of our creators on Twitter. There's a huge UGC content creator community on there. So you can just send them your products and the briefs, some examples, the kind of thing that you like, and get the content back. It doesn't even have to go off their channels. You just use it in your own ads. And that's the kind of stuff that works really well. So with a lot of luxury brands that do have the overproduced videos, even a talk I went to about Vogue's TikTok channel, they said that they didn't get it right the first time, and they bought a TikTok account that already had the followers on to, I suppose, generate that brand. It's embarrassing if they kind of started at zero, and then hired freelancers to be creating and clipping up the videos for them, rather than the luxury long form video. While long form's doing better on TikTok than it was, people are just on there for a real quick scroll. If it looks like an ad, it's overly branded, it's got your logo slapped across the front, people are just going to scroll past.
So that's interesting. So even if you are selling like a luxury product and you're not expecting those direct conversions through TikTok, the same rule applies about the content itself, in that it should still look like someone actually created it themselves, even if the product is more expensive and luxury.
Yeah, so luxury jewelry client, they had so many gorgeous produced videos that do so well on Meta, and then on TikTok no one was clicking through. So we asked the owner to literally just do a demo, and she's putting the jewelry on and talking through it, what inspired her of the pieces, stack of the day, these are my ring stacks, this is, I'm getting ready for date night or something like that. And they've got the highest click-throughs out of everything that they've probably spent thousands on.
And one of the other things that I hear commonly is that TikTok is becoming this massive kind of search engine, and people saying it's rivaling Google as a search engine. So Are there any things people should be aware of when it comes to optimizing their TikTok content for search?
Yeah, make sure that you're putting any of the key terms in your captions. Don't spam the hashtags. It's a bit like Instagram now. You only want a few hashtags. The search terms are going to be in your captions, but also if you've got a voiceover or you're talking on camera, then make sure that you're putting in the subtitles on there. Check them through in case it gets it wrong. But your keywords want to be in what you're actually talking about, or use text overlays. Like when you're editing or using CapCut or Caption, the app, to put your caption overlays, it doesn't read those. So it will read the text that you actually put on in the app. So we tend to edit anything in the app, so things get posted organically on TikTok, and then we'll use it as a Spark ad or kind of re-download it and use it as an ad, so it looks more authentic because it's built in TikTok.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, you briefly touched on your answer there. CapCut, I think, was your recommendation for creating videos quickly and easily for TikTok. Free to use. Yeah.
I mean, mostly. I accidentally paid for it, and now I've created everything with like the premium solution. So that's it, £8 a month, I think. But I can't believe that the free one's still going.
Out of interest, what do you get for your £8 a month? Like, what was the benefit?
I can make captions appear as they say, with a little highlight line over it. And you can get some auto editing things that are really quick. I mean, they're quite janky. It's very in your face transitions, and there's sparkles everywhere, and it flips on its head. And I just thought, oh god, which works for the toys, but maybe not for something luxury. But yeah, we use CapCut, and I might, if I want to use TikTok trending sound, download the video off TikTok, import it into CapCut and rip off the music, and then clip up my content to that. And then when I put it back on TikTok, I'll find that audio and match it back up.
Yeah, those automated transitions sound somewhat like Google's automated videos for Performance Max. We've heard some horror stories about the editing and the transitions that they throw onto those. So automated video editing, not quite there yet. It doesn't seem like. We'll give it another few years for that to look all right, I guess.
It's better than Google's, but it's not there.
All right. So we'll leave it there for TikTok. And I know, Fiona, like one of the big things that you kind of flagged in the playbook was that LinkedIn ads are incredibly expensive, and that you kind of see there's a lot of value in LinkedIn organically and kind of having a strong LinkedIn organic strategy. But Leo, it would be great to bring you in here, because I know you've been doing a lot of work at Lunio to help try and bring down some of the costs associated with LinkedIn. And if you could just kind of give people best practices for trying to make LinkedIn ads more affordable and more spend efficient when they're running.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been using LinkedIn since beta. If it's one thing I can add, is they're infamous for not providing end users with not much information you can find in terms of, is there an email cap, like what kind of bidding structure should you use on the platform. Most paid social platforms tend to recommend bids. LinkedIn recommends extortionate prices. So they typically recommend $25, sometimes $50 per click, which is something ridiculous. And if you do use their automated bidding system, you can bid up to $100 per click, which is just ridiculous. We've actually tried that, and we had to request a refund afterwards. But the success we've seen, I guess, can be categorized into three main areas, which applies to messaging and the creative. So just include a few things on the slides that I wanted to touch on specifically on LinkedIn. So mainly the targeting piece. I guess what makes LinkedIn so powerful is that it hoards a lot of valuable first-party data. So this is first-party data that if you want to target people at a business level, or maybe you want to pull through job titles, maybe you're looking at people open for relocation and open for education within the platform itself. And again, this is a big problem in the social media space anyways, is fake user engagement and just fake users in general. So my top recommendation here is try to separate active buyers versus passive users / fake users. There's a big difference between someone who's spending their time on LinkedIn, they have an updated profile, maybe they're part of certain groups within their field because they're looking to advance in their career. And you can start by prioritizing those groups. So my recommendation is always to start as niche as possible. Stay below LinkedIn's recommended audience, which is they typically recommend going above 50K. I recommend the opposite. Don't ever start with expanding that further. What you should really watch out for is LinkedIn's targeting isn't perfect. So if you try to target someone by company or by title, LinkedIn will often try to match that company with a title from a different company. So you might actually be targeting people who work for Fiverr and Upwork, or people who maybe they're a CEO of their own organization, but they're also a janitor somewhere else, or a pilot for Virgin. So we've actually encountered some like really funny results just by targeting performance marketers, and then we found that actually these people aren't relevant. And then the third and last recommendation on the targeting piece is really try to filter through customer audiences and fake user audiences are active within that platform, and try to filter out any invalid clicks that come as a result of that. I'd say that is the main bit, and that should be like your main focus, your umbrella term. And then I'll quickly just touch on the two bottom areas, which is the messaging and creative. So we've seen so many brands do messaging wrong because they still very much focus on at a business level, which is quite a corporate view. You have to realize that when we're advertising online, we're not advertising to businesses, we're advertising to individuals. So try to focus on what's the benefit to the end, use the benefit to the business. So we've included a great example by more on that end user experience, which is love your work at Capco and automate the rest. And they've also tied that in with some personalization at account level, which is perfect. And then lastly, for those that have realized we're actually pretty transparent with how some of our campaigns perform. I've just included a screenshot of our existing campaign on LinkedIn and how we're able to keep our cost per leads lower than $30 per lead. And this is with business emails verified. So our top recommendation for anyone running LinkedIn ads is focus on mobile experience, specific vertical ads. So try to invest 90% of your budget on vertically. If you encounter a vertical ad on your phone, that takes up your entire screen, and you're playing the same, just scroll past. So really focus on those vertical ads and try to keep your messaging as concise as possible. I think if you stick to that format with a niche audience, you will see the results you're looking for.
Yeah, that's
I'd say those would be the main takeaways.
Yeah, I think the main point just being that kind of niche audience, and similar to Google, they'll try and push you to auto apply recommendations and kind of broaden up your audience to a large extent. But best to stay away from that. And as you said here, you want to stay below 50K users despite LinkedIn's repeated prompts to go above 50K in your targeting. But anyway, thanks for that, Leo. We'll just move on now.
Always.
We'll just move on to another thing that you mentioned in the playbook, Fiona, was automated campaign budget optimization and your experiences with that. So what are the issues with automated campaign budget optimization and some of the challenges around automated campaign types in general?
I mean, it's they wouldn't do them if they weren't optimized to actually work, or else advertisers wouldn't spend any money. But you lose control over your budget. So if your goal is purely a return on ad spend, regardless of who it goes to, if you're targeting whatever, then go for it. But when we've got clients with goals to reach multiple audiences, we've got excess stock to shift, so we need budget on each of the ads just as much, then we want to do anything manually as much as possible and automate as less as possible. So it'll try automate your campaign placements, your audiences, the copy. It might try create a video for you that'd be really nice, but you want full control over that spend. If you've got goals to, say, expand into a new territory, it might not do as well as your current one. So if it was on campaign budget optimization, it will funnel all your budget into the one ad set and ad that's actually working, rather than paying attention to the rest of your goals. So it's not all of our goals are on return, and the automated targeting will just usually retarget people that have already bought and that might buy again, when our goals, we want to go to new audiences or drive local store visits or something like that. So you want to be in control of budget as much as you can.
Yeah, and as you said, you don't want to kind of completely forget about all your, they might not be your top performers, but you have lots of other products that you need to shift and get off the shelves. And if you allow the automation, it might just kind of leave those, and you'll have stock in your hands that isn't sold. But with that in mind, obviously the upside of automation is, this saves me so much time and hassle. If people are going to be a bit more manual and strategic about their bidding and how they're handling their budget, what's the most efficient way that they can manage it and make sure that they're not spending needless hours kind of handling this manually?
Know your KPIs beforehand. So it takes us maybe 5-10 minutes to go in and tweak each set of ads every day, because we know the kind of CPM, we know the frequency that we want to hit before we start changing the ad creative. We know the kind of click-through rate we want. So set those KPIs for each client and platform, so you can whiz in, know what you're looking for. You can see if something's getting add to carts or click-through, or CPM higher, and you can flick it off. You can put the budget around, know what your spend should be and the stats should be that you're looking for before you start going in and spending hours thinking, what does that even mean? What's the benchmark for my industry or for my client?
Makes sense. Yeah, know your numbers before you go in and start looking at these. Otherwise, it's very easy to get lost in a dashboard and not know really what's worth paying attention to and what you can move on from. So have those to hand. That being said, I know there are a lot of people experimenting with these automated campaign types. Some people getting better results than others. Leo, it would just be interesting to get your take in particular on the automated campaign type, which Meta are pushing quite heavily at the moment, is Advantage Plus. If people are going to go down that route and they decide that they want to experiment with automated campaign types, what are the prerequisites and what are the things that they need to put in place before they use those campaigns to make sure that they are likely to get good results?
Yeah, good question. Meta is seriously giving me Performance Max vibes. I remember when they first announced it, I believe that came after Performance Max. And then funny enough, LinkedIn are working on something similar in the background, something very similar to Advantage Plus. I don't want to spoil it here, but a little bit worrying, the shift that these ad platforms are taking. The main focus, I would say, is look at your historic data, analyze the data that these platforms are using to run it through their algorithms. So if you're confident that your historic data is close of maybe customers that are purchasing constantly, maybe your objective, like Fiona said, maybe your objective is acquiring new customers versus existing customers. You need to make sure that you're filtering that data out so that Facebook optimizes for new customers. So very similar to Performance Max and any kind of automated campaign types. Another thing that I would add, which is a little bit on what we're doing with Lunio, is we would run a few A/B tests with Lunio and without Lunio to really understand how much traffic is invalid, how much of that traffic should we remove in the first place, and then run an actual direct test with an ad campaign like Meta or Performance Max with that data versus without that data. And then what you would typically find is, the results, but a small sample of data that you're more confident in will yield better results than you dealing with a much larger sample of data that might be skewed because of fake user engagement, maybe people that shouldn't be included in that list anyway. So not every website visit should be retargeted, put it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. I know.
I would say that would probably be the main focus.
Yeah, I know. We just have some connections on your end, Leo, so there's a slight bit of delay. We can hear most of what you're saying, but we'll just hope that the connection will pick up. But we've still got you here. Before we move on, one point, Fiona, that you made was why it's very important to have a single source of truth for benchmarking your paid social performance. This is relevant whether you're running automated campaigns or whether you're just running standard traditional campaigns. So why is it so important to have that single source of truth, and what is the source of truth that you refer to when you're looking at your paid social performance?
Because quite often the figure that you see on your social ads doesn't quite add up to your actual bottom line revenue or what you might see in Shopify or something like that. So as long as you and your clients can agree with this is where we're going to, that's your Shopify, Google Analytics, GA4, or you've got another HubSpot if some lead goes in there, that's what you're using for tracking, as long as you can all agree on one place, because even with your pixels set up, sometimes they're not right. If someone puts in an incorrect postcode and click pay now and you've got the purchase attached to that button, it's going to count kind of double or retarget that person. Or sometimes we see Facebook sales going through, but then they're not come through on the website because they've applied for finance on not got it. So just make sure that you're using the same place. So got one client on HubSpot, one on Shopify, another on Wix, Commerce. Just make sure that you're using the same thing. Even one on Monday. And they put all the sales that go through on there, so we can cross-check names with DMs and Instagram and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think just to make sure that we cover all the topics here, we'll just move on to the next point. And it's just about A/B testing. So obviously a really crucial part of paid social and kind of all performance marketing in general is A/B testing. So Fiona, could you talk us through the process that you typically use when you're A/B testing ads for clients?
I don't ever anymore actually use the inbuilt A/B testing function in Meta ads, but we always have multiple campaigns running, making sure there's no audience overlap, multiple audiences and different styles of ads, different themes, types of content, different products. So we start a lot wider and then narrow it down. And if one's not working, we'll swap the audience out and try a different brand affinity or try a different country or lookalike. Or if that one style of creative's really working, then we'll replicate it for some of the other products. So we just constantly looking at the data and what's actually working and tweaking little bits. So we'll run two ads alongside each other. The copy might be slightly different, or the creative, it's even on TikTok, like it's just got a different backing track. Sometimes that can just make all the difference, but you want multiple variations running at all times so you can manually go in and change that budget. And you still want to be updating them, because even if something's working really, really well, it might get creative fatigue and just stop working and getting the click-throughs because people are seeing it too many times.
One of the other interesting points that you raised was about your kind of product platform fit, and it's also worth experimenting. Like, is this the right product for this particular platform? And have you seen examples of that in the past where you're trying to push a particular product on one social channel, it's just not working, you take it on another channel, and then all of a sudden, you're getting really good results?
Yeah. So what sells really well on Meta, then we try put that on TikTok, just doesn't, and something really obscure might sell really well on TikTok. So with toys on PMax, just really rogue things, really specific searches do really well, like lobsters. Restaurants order them like 18 at a time, or like little duck toys for Easter. And then the thing that just blows every other product out the water is a sensory squashy caterpillar on TikTok. People go wild for it. So we're just creating 10 different versions of caterpillar videos every week because we know that sells, but just no one will touch it on Google.
And just final point about A/B testing, just about the audiences when you're experimenting with different audiences. When you're testing like two different audiences, are they fairly similar to each other in some ways, or are you kind of testing kind of very different audiences and just seeing which will work better, I guess?
Yeah, sometimes. So if we've got like a wide campaign, bottom of the funnel, we'll exclude the more niche audiences. Otherwise, they might just end up overlapping. We'll make sure that we exclude the bot accounts. Like Leo said, we'll make sure that we exclude the if we've got a retargeting audience, or we'll split out retargeting. So we've just got people that have engaged on social versus people that have previously purchased, but maybe not within the last 2 weeks. So we do split that out quite in depth. If you're on a smaller budget, then keep it kind of wider, maybe 2-3 ad sets. But when working with bigger budgets, we can split that out really in depth.
Nice. So we'll just come on to the last point here. I know both of you, Leo and Fiona, you've probably got some ideas of trends that you've noticed. So what should marketers expect to see more of in the latter half of 2023 when it comes to paid social trends? So Fiona, we'll just start with you on that one.
Content creators and authentic content. People have developed such ad blindness now that if it's overly branded, they're just going to scroll on past. You want to be using creators or running your ads actually through creator accounts or influencer accounts. So we run a lot of Facebook ads through influencers and creators accounts because it looks more authentic coming from a person, and then we can retarget their kind of maybe top 5% of engaged followers that will buy anything that they sell. And spark ads on TikTok, so we promote things directly through their profiles. So content creation that actually looks authentic is going to take over. There's so many ads on there, we're really great at ignoring them.
Yeah, that's a real thing. We're just bombarded with so many of them. We have become very good at tuning them out. Leo, I know there's a few points here that you've kind of that we discussed previously, which are dotted around this 8 ball here on the slide. If you wanted to talk us through some of those trends that you've seen and why they might be useful to tap into.
Yeah. So I guess the first one, we're already seeing it with LinkedIn, where LinkedIn is testing this. I believe it's still in beta, but you can promote employee profiles. So I'm seeing a lot more employee ads promoted as part of a brand. So having an individual's person advert actually in front of you that looks a bit like a native social media post. I think overall the trend is focusing on native consumption. So like Fiona mentioned, people are blind to ads. So how can you make these ads look a little bit more native and engaging? A major prediction of mine is going to be the shift towards contextual advertising. So contextual advertising, I guess when you think of paid social is more often than not used as a demand generation channel. So people that are on social media are not looking for your platform. They're typically not in that buying stage, and you're constantly disrupting them with ads. So that, which explains why people tend to see such high returns on investment across paid search, because paid search is not a demand generation channel. It is actually demand capture. So you can be running ads across social, and yes, you can measure some of those results, but it might be that the influence of your paid social ads are now influencing those searches on Google. So what we're seeing in the paid social space, specifically across TikTok, is these platforms leveraging the power of search to deliver ads on time that are contextual to what the person is actually looking for. And I think that is incredibly powerful, because you now have this to a user, you're kind of just stopping them on the tracks while they're actually searching for something. And then I guess the last one is, the whole kind of flywheel versus funnel dilemma. I believe the funnel is somewhat outdated nowadays. We still very much stick to the funnel because our minds want to box a certain format. And yes, the funnel is linear and it's easy to understand. But the idea of a flywheel experience is a lot more customer-centric. So rather than businesses just focusing on social media advertising for acquisition, they should really be focusing on that 360 view, which is the acquisition. How are you retaining customers? How are you upselling those customers? So looking at that full picture from a paid social perspective, rather than just using it as an acquisition channel. I'd say
nice.
These are some of the major ones.
Nice. Thanks for that, Leo. I think we've just got just under 10 minutes, so we'll move on to some of the questions that have come through here, Fiona. I'll just share some of them on the screen. So the first question here from Joseph, how do you ensure ad sets get out of the learning phase? If you're constantly tinkering with the ads, is it a priority for you to make sure that they do get out of the learning phase?
It's not a priority, really. It's not made any difference. We've still seen like a 300 ROAS on something that is still in learning. So if we don't tinker with the ad set specifically, we'll add a new one and switch that off or reduce the budget. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't keep it in learning if you just moving the budget around, because obviously Facebook want you to increase the budget and the spend. And we might add new ads in there as well, rather than changing the ads that are already existing. So we're not directly going and editing those. We'll add a new one and, test them side by side.
Nice. The next question from Alex. How long do you typically give your A/B testing before reviewing the data and making changes?
A good week, really, because it can take up to 5 days for especially Facebook to get all the data in. So we give campaigns at least a week, but tend to run the same campaigns for kind of 2 weeks before completely taking it apart. Or it's usually Monday when we launch them, Friday when we'll tweak or add or redistribute the budgets and everything before the weekend.
So at least a week. Yeah, that makes sense. Next question from Olivia. Are there any hashtags on Twitter that UGC content creators use?
Hashtag UGC creator, UGC content creator, UGC creator. Things get retweeted and shared, and loads of people will email you their portfolios.
Nice, on the nose. Next question from Rani. When optimizing for keyword search terms, will the ad get penalized if they are found to be keyword stuffing the way Google does? Perhaps this might have been in relation to TikTok search optimization and stuff like that.
No, not in an ad. The keywords that you put in there will only really impact when you're using automated targeting for audiences. That's how it will decide what's in the video and who it's relevant for. It just won't read as well if you're keyword stuffing. You're not going to get penalized for it, but if you've already selected your audience and it's niche enough, then you don't need all the keywords in there anyway.
Makes sense. Which KPI do you mostly keep an eye on for optimizing on Meta? What labels a campaign successful for you?
It'll be either leads, sign-ups, or sales. That's the big one. But also frequency. Don't want that to get too high. I think someone else has asked as well. I don't want that to get above 4. When it starts getting above 3 and it's on a wide campaign, we will refresh the creatives. We'll put some new ads in there. But we don't want to start annoying people by hammering the same thing down their throats. So it would usually be return on ad spend. If something's just not getting the return, then we'll start to look at different audiences or different product lines, that kind of thing.
The next question kind of relates to our kind of single source of truth topic that we addressed earlier. So is Facebook over-reporting conversions? We've seen as over 50% more conversions when compared to actual leads.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. We thought we made a client like $1 million in a week. It turns out it was just like a competitor's bots attacking the ads, making false purchases by putting in like fake addresses, and it just bounced back and that kind of thing. That's why you need the ultimate source of truth. So when we're checking the return on spend, we think, oh my God, that's amazing. But then we go back and actually check Shopify, are those products and the ads actually selling? Facebook have come clean about loads of their reach and impressions being well overestimated as well. So we take all the KPIs with a pinch of salt. You can get an idea if it's performing or if it's not, but you do need that source of truth.
Could I also just quickly add to this, is that every ad platform is fighting for attribution right now. And definitely look out for view through attribution points, because we found it quite interesting when we look at Google Ads, Facebook, and maybe Twitter, and they're all reporting on that same conversion point, just because maybe they've been exposed to a Google ad and they've seen a Facebook ad, and then maybe they've converted elsewhere. And every platform is saying, yes, it was us.
Everyone's trying to take the credit. Yeah.
Especially if we're working with multiple agencies, you just need to sit down and be like, right, mate, I know that Google Analytics isn't pulling through our Facebook campaigns, but I will take my sales. They're not yours.
This is a interesting question, might be useful to some of the people here. Are there any resources you use to stay up to date regarding social algorithm updates, knowing average KPIs ahead of time?
Reddit. I'm in loads of marketing and advertising Reddit things, so I'll get like a notification as soon as something happens, like with the Facebook thing went down. I'm in loads of LinkedIn chats. I look on Twitter. I'll message other friends in social. Just having a big network of people in your field that you can message and say, your Facebook ad's like this, or is your LinkedIn reach down? And I'm in plenty of group chats and things like that. So have that network there and places you can go to ask other people.
Reddit's super useful for lots of different reasons. So yeah, if you're not on there, get on and join the right communities. This question from Diana: how long would you recommend to run a test audience on creative, on Meta, and for audience tests, should it be better to set up the campaigns as ABO rather than CBO?
It would be the week, really, unless a few days in you can see that one's clearly outperforming the other and you're getting absolutely no traction on one, then I'd just switch it off. So leave it a week. For audience test, I'd set ABO. I set the budgets at ad set level, and I mess around with them at ad level as well, so I can put more budget into something I've got way more stock of and less than something I know I've got 6 watches left or things like that. So I try control the budget as much as possible.
I know we've got a lot of questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to get through them all, but I'm just going to pick this as our last question for today. I think it's quite interesting. John asked, are there any micro conversions you find valuable to track and optimize on Facebook and Meta, like time on site or page scroll depth?
Video watches, people actually interested in my content, post engagements, especially with carousels, things like that. Do people actually care about it? What's the comment sentient comments, and what people are actually saying and asking is really important, because then we'll create the next ad to be able to answer it.
Nice. So yeah, we have a few more questions there, but we will get an answer to you if we didn't get around to your question there. I think just time-wise, that's all we got time for today. So again, big thank you to you, Fiona. A lot of useful takeaways there for the people here today. And could you just let people know where to go if they want to connect with you, and if there's anything else you'd like to mention before we finish?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Fiona Bradley. The big pink background. This is the only time I've done a talk not wearing pink, actually. And just drop me a DM on there and send me a connection request, and I can get back to you.
You've got pink headphones, at least. I think at least they look pink to me. Yeah.
Pink enough.
So likewise, if you've got any questions for us, you can contact us directly at hello@lunio.ai, and we'll be happy to help. As I mentioned in the intro, this is the final webinar in this series, and if you missed any of the previous ones and you'd like to check those out, you can find them all on demand on the Lunio blog, complete with the timestamps and the TLD or recap, and we'll also be uploading today's session on the blog tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. One final thing, Leo, if people are interested in getting a 14-day free trial of Lunio to monitor their paid social campaigns, how can they do that?
Well, gotta love a QR code. Either scan the QR or just type in lunio.ai/free trial or lp.lunio.ai. And what the free trial basically is it's more of an audit, no strings attached. What we'll do is we'll actually scan the traffic that your paid social channels are driving, and provide you with a rough breakdown of how much of that traffic is human versus non-human. And then there's a more interesting breakdown from that per channel. So definitely recommend giving that a try. Takes 5 minutes to set up.
Thank you very much, Leo. Big thanks to everyone here today for tuning in, whether live or on demand, and hope to see you again whenever we run our next webinar session. So take care, everyone, and good luck with your paid social campaigns.